One of the important aspects of operations management is creating a risk management plan. So this video will talk about the different steps to include when you are creating a risk management plan. First of all, we want to talk about what is risk management. Risk management or a risk management plan is a comprehensive plan that addresses all potential emergencies, including how to prevent them and how to deal with them if and when they happen. And I would like to say that even things that you think would never happen need to be included in your risk management plan. So first of all, you need to develop a plan. Step one is to assess your risk. Form a risk management or safety/security committee. Then share examples of previous emergencies, and then brainstorm all potential crises your center might face. And that goes back to what I said before, is that things that you would think that you would never face, you still need to address them. In our center in Milwaukee, we never had a flood in the area where our program is located. Well, in 2010, it rained, it poured, and I remember that there was actually water pouring through the windows of the center, and this is when the children were in the classroom. They were sleeping. So we had to remove all the children from around that classroom. Actually, it was more than one classroom where the water was pouring in the windows. And so I'm thinking, what is going on here? Is this just from the windows needing to be repaired or something like that? But we were actually flooded. It had never happened in 30 years and hasn't happened since then. And so it was wonderful that we had different guys that worked there. People actually came back to the job to help us because they saw that we were in distress. We did not have a plan in place, but people actually returned. They came in, they were doing what they could, whether it was sweeping or trying to think of that tool, but whatever, to get the water out of the building. They removed the children. People were calling parents, and then the parents could barely make it because the driveway was flooded. All of these things were happening, and we didn't have a plan. It worked out, but now we have a plan. Something, like I said, 30 years had never happened, but it happened. So that's something to think about. So step two is to update important information while you're developing a plan. You need to list important contacts. You make sure you have all your parents' names, addresses, emails, and telephone numbers. Keep them updated. That is so important. And even the emergency contact numbers, make sure those are the same. Be as comprehensive as possible. And include a list of emergency contacts for each child. And if possible, get an out-of-state contact. If something happens here or where you are and no one can be reached or service somehow goes down in different areas, you may need to reach someone that is out of state in order to let them know what's going on with that child. Then you need to write procedures, and that would be included in your, just like you have the standard operating procedures, but it's important to have procedures for your risk management plan. And so write out your procedures for handling different scenarios. And then your procedures to follow in an event of an emergency. That's something that you need to make sure that you have in your risk management plan. And then another thing to have in your risk management plan are your guidelines to reduce allegations of child abuse and neglect. And then also in your risk management plan, you need to have steps to take to maintain safety of people, facilities, equipment, and materials. So in the risk of an emergency, and some examples of emergencies include earthquakes, power outages, sewer backup, intruders, vehicle accidents, severe illnesses, or death of a staff person or child, nuclear disaster or bomb threat. Those are types of things you need to think about. You need to create clear, specific procedures, and then keep the information concise and to the point. And then you need to, when we talk about reducing the risk of allegations, identify ways to be proactive to prevent allegations. Make sure that you have policies in place. One policy is the open door policy. Then also policy preventing a staff member from being alone in a center with one or more children. And also make sure that you let the parents know, or not the parents, but the teachers know, that you cannot have the windows covered with paper or artwork. In our programs, we have windows in each room so that you can see what's going on in there at all times. And we also let the staff know that they cannot be covered with artwork. We also have cameras too, so that's something that's important that will be beneficial to reducing the risk of allegations. But also enforce daily sign-in and sign-out procedures. And another way to reduce risk of allegations is include a daily health check upon arrival and report all minor and major injuries. And then another thing to have a plan for is reducing allegations of abuse. Include discipline guidelines. Include required staff training on abuse and neglect. Inform staff that these policies and trainings are to protect them from allegations of child abuse and neglect. Then maintain safety. And these things should be included in your risk management plan. And we're talking about maintaining safety. Make sure these are in your policies and that the staff members are knowledgeable of what the expectations are. And that's regarding universal precautions, toy sanitation, how and when the toys should be sanitized, how proper hand washing procedures for the staff as well as for the children, proper diapering procedures. And then if you're working with children with allergies or chronic health conditions, what should be done in those cases. And also make sure that you have your policies regarding persons authorized to pick up children from the center. And one example is making sure that you check IDs. And so other things to include in your risk management plan is dispensing medication and dealing with illness, your confidentiality policies, activating and deactivating security alarms, your scheduled pest control, regular safety maintenance inspections, keeping hazardous materials out of reach, the transportation of children if you guys do that, as well as theft and fraud. So you need to make sure that you do have all of those in your risk management procedures. So step 4 of developing a plan is to implement your plan. So use the risk management or safety committee to review the plan and give feedback before implementing. Make sure everyone understands and agrees to their role in disaster situations. Like I mentioned before, when we had that flood, it was wonderful that people came back to help, but people need to know what is actually expected of them, not relying on the generosity of people coming back to work to help out. But then also make sure that you practice drills, or you have some practice drills, so that you can know, first of all, will this actually work in this kind of situation? And then, so people, the more you practice, the better you will do when an emergency situation arises. Then also review it annually and make updates as necessary. And so that's important because sometimes things change. And so that needs to be covered in your plan. Then you need to make sure that you distribute your plan. Make copies easily accessible in the office and the classrooms, and also make sure that people know where they are. Because if they don't know where they are, it won't do them any good. But then at the same time, keep one copy off site. We have some businesses located near us, and so it would be something. We haven't done this yet, but make sure you keep a copy off site. We have a library across the street. I might just ask them, can they keep a copy for us? But because of our hours, we would probably get someone else, see if someone else can keep one, because we are open until 1 a.m. So make sure that whoever or wherever you keep a copy off site, that is accessible, easily accessible, and that they're also open the same hours that you're open. And then last but not least, what are some advantages of having a risk management plan? Number one, it's smart business strategy. If you don't plan, it may or may not work out successfully. Like I mentioned before, it worked out for us with the flood, but I think it would have been much better if we had had a plan in place. It will also help to prevent financial loss, depending on what the situation was, and especially when it comes to reducing allegations of child abuse or any other types of allegation. And it also reduces liability, and it can help preserve your program's good reputation. And that's why it's so important to have a risk management plan in place.